Hi guys, welcome back. So I was inspired to do this video topic actually yesterday. I was going to do it this morning, but I was doing other things. And it came highly requested by a couple men who was curious because I made this post on Facebook yesterday on my page saying I feel sorry for men who want sex. Actually, I said I feel sorry for men who want pussy, because there is a difference. Who want pussy but don't know how to ask for it. And then several men commented and was just like, how do you ask for it? So I figured that'll be a good topic for a video. So here we are. Now, first, let me differentiate what's the difference between asking for pussy and asking for sex, because there's a difference, right? Big difference. First of all, pussy is more of an object. When we think of a pussy, it's a thing, right? It's a thing. So is sex. But pussy is like when you're asking a woman for a pussy, you're detaching the pussy from her body, her entire self. A woman is a human being, right? Just like men. But it's almost as if when a man is interested in having sex with some men, we're not talking about all men, but when some men are interested in having sex with a woman, they like, oh, they think about pussy, they want some pussy. And after they have sex, it's like, oh, I got the pussy, I got the draws. But they don't say like, oh, I had sex with her or we fucked. It's almost like she gave you something. Like you're asking for something and then she gives it to you, right? But when you have sex with a woman, when you make love to a woman, it's a mutual exchange. So there is a difference. And it's not that she's giving you anything. A lot of women say, oh, I lost my virginity, as if it's something that you can give away, right? It's not something you give away like it's an object, like it's something separate from yourself. It's like you have it and then you don't have it anymore. No. It's still yours. A woman is a woman, regardless who she has sex with. You know? And after she has sex with a man, she didn't give him her pussy. She still has her pussy. So I find it to be quite interesting. I have to make that differentiation because some people just don't get it. So I titled this video, for men only, how to ask for sex as opposed to how to ask for pussy, because I'm not in the business of objectifying women. I'm just not. But I was initially inspired to this video because, as you guys know, right, I'm 36 years old. I'm in the dating scene. On online dating sites and things like that. And I find it to be funny. This is like humorous to me that, because I can tell, I study human behavior. I read people all the time, right? This is what I do for a profession. And I find it to be interesting that men somehow think that a woman doesn't know what their true intentions are. And, it is what it is. It's like, we are all adults here, right? But it kind of saddens me that men are afraid to just ask for what they want. Like, you want sex. Why are you pretending like you want something else? And I want you guys to feel free to comment. Like, men, when you come across a beautiful woman, right? Sex is on your mind. We're sexual beings. We're human beings. That's just part of our nature to have sex, right? Some people say, oh, sex is only meant for procreation. But if it was only meant for procreation, we wouldn't be able to be sexually or sensually gratified by it, right? We get enjoyment from having sex. There's a reason why that's there. There's a reason why we have nerve endings down there and we get that enjoyment. It's not just for procreation. It's for our own pleasure, right? So, given that, why is it that, guys, let me know, why is it that men, I said even women find it difficult to ask for sex. I mean, I can tell you guys why. Oh, this thing is bitter. I don't think I want to eat that on video. Maybe later. But why is it so difficult? Let me know. Why is it so difficult to ask for what you want? I mean, it's natural, right? Men want sex. Women want sex. If women didn't want sex, women wouldn't have sex. Women actually want sex just as bad as men. You know, we have hormones that stimulate our desires for physical touch. That we get these cravings throughout the month. A certain period in a woman's cycle, and I talked about this in my other video about how to control your sexual urges from a biological perspective. You guys can go back and watch that video. But yes, women experience certain times throughout their menstrual cycle where they are horny. And the African men from the continent of Africa, they call it honey. I'm like, what? Some men say, oh, I'm honey. Honey? What? But back to the question, why is it that men find it difficult to ask for sex? Why is it so difficult? If that's something that you want, and you know that's something that women also sometimes want, why is it so difficult? I mean, obviously it's stigmatized, right? But it's like, to me, it's just as simple as asking for a pen. If you want to borrow somebody's pen, right? You don't hesitate to ask to borrow someone's pen. So when you see a female that you're interested in and you want to get to know her, and after you've gotten to know her a little bit, why is that a hard thing? Like, just say what it is that you want. I mean, there's condoms for a reason, right? It's not that, okay, I'm talking about just go out there and just have sex. But you guys know that I'm a woman. I'm all for sexual freedom. Like, I'm all for sexual liberation. We don't have to live in cages where we inhibit ourselves. We restrict ourselves from being able to experience that which we were created to do as sexual beings. So it doesn't have to be like we're caged animals here, you know? And I think that men sometimes need help with this. That's the reason why I'm making this video, because apparently men find it difficult. Like, I can see the struggle in men's faces, like even through a computer screen, like not even seeing them like on camera, but just seeing them and how they hesitate to just get to the point. Now, some men, they don't hesitate. Like, they know, right? They know what they want. They articulate it. They say, hey, you know, it is what it is, right? And then women were like, ooh. But my thing is, and I might make another video on why women be fronting too. Like, why? And you know, within our society, we stigmatize sex, right? So if a woman has sex, it's like she's seen as a whore, it's dirty, it's, you know, defiled. Of course, religion plays a major role in that. It's just like, oh, you're dirty. But it's nothing dirty about it. It's just a energy exchange. That's what it is, you know? And if you have it with the right person that can meet your needs, your sexual needs, it can be a really great thing. So why do we damn near criminalize it? Why do we make it a bad thing? Talk to me, guys. I just realized that they sell this watermelon juice. I did not know that, and it tastes really good. I don't know if it's authentic though, but I know it's really good. It seems to be authentic. Oh no! Oh, it says ingredients in this beverage are not genetically engineered. Are not. Huh. All right, y'all mighty quiet. Y'all are mighty quiet. I got my AC going, but I'm about to crank it up a little bit. This thing is, I can see it's gonna get toasty. It's about to get toasty up in here. It's gonna get toasty. So, I'm gonna tell y'all about this encounter that I had. Several encounters recently and, you know, throughout my life, right? That relate to this video topic. So, you guys know I'm staying in Upper East Side, Manhattan, near Randall's Park. And it's a very beautiful park. I did not know that it's connected to this psychiatric facility. I think it's called Manhattan Psychiatric Facility. And so you guys know I like to explore, right? And so I'm walking and I cross the overpass to get to the park, this bridge, this archway, to get to the other side, to the park. And I'm walking across the bridge and there's this black man. Now, it caught me off guard, completely caught me off guard. I did not expect this, you guys. I'm walking, and then it's like, it didn't dawn on me, like, what happened, because, you know, I'm in my own zone. I'm always in my own zone, right? Like, I'm minding my business, as most people who live in New York do. We just mind our business. But I'm walking, and this man just stops midway, out of nowhere, and it caught my attention because he stopped like abruptly, and when I looked, he's looking at me. So you know, like, you can feel somebody looking at you, you look back at them, right? It's almost like a protective mechanism that we have built into our bodies, that we can sense when someone is looking at us, right? And so he stopped, he's looking at me, and then I look back at him. Sammy says, why do some women find it difficult to say they need or want sex? We're going to get into that. I mean, I kind of talked about that already. You know, there's a stigma surrounding sex in our country. I think it's a cultural thing. Women are treated so bad when it comes to sex, and that's the fault of the society. So men like, oh, well, why are you acting all like that? You know you want it, but why you? Because what do men call women who are sexually promiscuous? You guys know, what do men call women who have sex, who are just sexual beings? Y'all know. Oh, she's a slut. There's this whole thing called slut shaming. She's a slut, she's a bitch, she's a hoe, she's a tramp. Nobody wants to be called those names. So men are confused. It's like men want women to have sex with them, because how are you going to have sex unless you have a woman's consent? Otherwise it's going to be rape. So you want a woman to have sex with you, but at the same time you're going to shame a woman for having sex. Oxymoron. It's a huge contradiction. So back to the story. So I stop and I look at this guy, and his pants are dropped, and he wasn't wearing underwear, and he had his dick just hanging out his fucking shorts. And all I could do was shake my head and continue walking. But I'm like, seriously? Seriously? And my initial reaction was shock. I was shocked because, of course, I did not expect that. Secondly, I noticed the size, and I was just like, damn. Now, like I said, I kept walking because I don't want to send the wrong message, right? Like, I'm not out here in public trying to have sex. That's not my thing. With random freaking people and strangers, that's definitely not my thing. So you don't want to communicate the wrong message. Sometimes people will respond and act on whatever reaction that you give them. So for me, I just shook my head and I kept walking. But in my mind, I'm like, God damn. I'm like, damn. I kept walking, like I said, but I'm reflecting. I'm like thinking about the size. I'm like, that shit can't be real, what I just saw. Like, I can't believe, like, this shit was like this freaking long. That shit was long as hell. But then I thought about it. The next thought that went through my mind was, that shit is disgusting. Like, this was like rapid thoughts that went through my mind. You know, first it was shock, and then I'm just like, God damn, you know. Kind of a little bit impressed, but then I'm like, I felt violated, because I'm like, I didn't ask to see his freaking penis. Like, why did he just freaking show me his penis to an unsuspecting stranger, right? I felt violated. And then it dawned on me that, oh, there's a psychiatric facility over here across the park on Brando's Island, which I was walking in a direction. He was coming from that direction. I was walking towards that direction. So it dawned on me like, okay, maybe he was just released. It's like when you thought that you saw it all, right? It's still more to see in life. But yeah, I mean, it's not something that it's not like I haven't experienced some of that before, because I work in mental health. I mean, that is my profession. I work in mental health. I treat mentally ill people. I work with severely mentally ill people for many years, and starting back when I was an undergrad at Florida State University. This was many years ago, back in 2005, 2006, and then when I graduated, I worked at a residential facility. I work with people in mental hospitals, so I've seen people who are exhibitionists and they kind of get off on just showing themselves, and they'll just like stand there and just drop everything and let it hang out, you know. I work with kids who were exhibitionists, like that's, but it has a different kind of root, you know. So when I mention this, because it's related but it's somewhat different, because I want to talk about how men sometimes approach things the wrong way, right? So you have people who are exhibitionists who do it, and sometimes it comes from a different source. You know, it comes from a different root. It can be, you know, trauma that they experience, and this is their way of getting attention. They do it, it's attention seeking, right? You know, this is their way of kind of regaining control because they feel disempowered. So that's a different scenario. But it made me think also about sometimes how you have men that they don't have that necessarily psychiatric history, right? It's not even related to something that's psychiatric, but meanwhile, they're doing it because they're trying to solicit for sex. They're trying to get some freaking pussy, but they do it the wrong way. Like, for example, men who send dick pics. And I made a video about this before. It's like, not every woman likes that. So that is not the right way to ask for sex. I mean, you probably want attention, but you're not going to get attention. I think it kind of turns a man on. Some men, when they do that, I made a video about this before. In the video, I talked about how I think sometimes men, they get off on the idea that a woman is going to see his pictures. And they kind of develop this whole narrative in their mind on how they think the woman is going to react and respond to seeing their naked freaking pictures, their dick, right? And most women don't even respond. They block. I mean, that's what I would do. But, you know, I just find it interesting that men just come at things the wrong way sometimes. It's just the wrong way. Now, is it entirely wrong? Is it the entirely wrong way if a man approaches a situation like that? No. So I do want to talk about, it depends on the context, because, and as with everything depends. It all depends, right? So this man that I was just talking about, walking across the bridge out in public, unsuspecting stranger, just totally random, totally not the right place, just totally inappropriate. No, that's a terrible context. You're not gonna, no. That's just wrong, right? But let's say this happened in the context of spring break. And I know a lot of African Americans, especially Southerners, know what I'm talking about. Way back in the day, I don't even know if they still have spring break anymore. But back in the day, they used to have this thing called spring break. And it was during spring break, where college students all across the country would convene annually at this event, right? And it would be in Daytona. They have different locations, but one of the hot spots was Daytona Beach, Florida, and I'm from Florida. Miami, Florida, you know, South Florida, different locations, but I know Daytona Beach was one of the ones that was popping, and it was basically on the strip, right? So you have like the street part, then you have like on the beach part, right? And when I say it was thousands of people, tens and tens of thousands of young people, 18 to 35, sometimes even older, but that was pretty much the typical age bracket of people, spring breakers, who would come out there, and everybody knows what the theme is, right? I mean, it's about having fun. So given the right context, something like that would be appropriate, and you will see things like that. You will see women walking down the strip, titties hanging out, men exposing themselves, you know, people having sex, because it's a strip of hotels, so people just come down there. They kind of know what the theme is. They know what time it is, so to speak, right? So it's like something like that would actually be appropriate. So it's all about the timing, you know. It's not to say the behavior is necessarily altogether wrong. It just depends on the time and place. And I remember I was so young. I went down there. My sister, she was 3 years older than me, and I remember, you know, it was just so much going on. It's very exciting, right? But of course, I wasn't having sex. You know, I was too young to be having sex. I think I was young. I think I was still in high school. I probably was 15 years old. But, you know, it was exciting to see how, you know, you can be free. It was like going to a place where people can just be themselves, right? Without judgment, without criticism, without, you know, much inhibition. You could just be you. Whereas, you know, the greater context in which we live in a society, people judge. You know, you can't be out there just having fun, right? Of course, this goes without saying that, yeah, you want to use protection, you want to wrap it up, you want to protect yourself. Yeah, that goes without saying, right? But, you know, I think it was a nice, you know, opportunity, a nice place, a nice event, gathering where people can just kind of let loose and be themselves and walk down the street half naked and drink and, you know, smoke marijuana, meet people from across the country, and you hang out, you know, you have drinks, you smoke, you eat good food, and then the grand finale. I mean, there was parties, there was strip parties, just all kinds of stuff going on. I don't know if these things still happen. You guys let me know if they still have spring break. I don't think, even if they do, I don't think that it was like how it used to be. But I mean, obviously with COVID-19 happening, I doubt it happened this year. But I mean, like prior to this year, I'm not sure if they still have spring break. Last I heard, canceled. It's been many years since I think they had canceled it. Freaknik was another one. Freaknik, but that was in Atlanta, Georgia. I don't think I ever got a chance to go to that, but I heard about it, and I heard it was off the Shazam. It was off the chain. So that was just an example to let you guys know, like, yeah, it depends on the context. And also private parties. They have private sex parties, you know, or demonstration parties, you know, strip parties and things like that. Certain places, certain contexts, it's okay. I think it kind of makes it easier. There's less hurdles that a man would have to kind of jump over to achieve that, you know, which he's trying to go after, right? To achieve the goal of, you know, having sex with a woman. But if you're thinking that you can just walk down the street and meet some woman and end up in bed, I don't know what street this is. I don't know what street in America you can walk down unless you're buying prostitutes. And that reminds me, like, on these dating sites, right, you come across men, they'll say, oh, they ask me, like, what's your experience on this site? And I was like, it's cool. Why, what's up? It's like, oh, well, it's kind of, mine has been shitty because women just want men to pay for sex. Like, they're just trying to get my money. And of course we know prostitution is illegal, but my thing is this, right? And I think a lot of women will agree with this, whether you're married or single or whatever, and correct me if I'm wrong, but don't men kind of pay for sex anyway? I mean, what do you think a date is, right? Like, it kind of strikes me as odd how men, some men anyway, some men will expect something for nothing, right? They just like, they want to have sex, they don't want to give anything. And I get that reasoning, right? Because it goes back to what I said at the beginning of this video, how yes, you have men, we're sexual beings, right? So women want sex just as bad as men. So why should a man have to pay for food and spend hundreds of dollars on a date when he know his expectation is at the end, the grand finale is sex, right? Why should he even have to invest so much money, and put forth all this effort if the woman also just wants sex? It's just like we both want the same thing, right? So it's like a mutual exchange. And I get you, brother. I get you. But we're talking about women who live in a society that bash women, that criticize women, that berate women for expressing themselves, Like, so there's going to be barriers put up against that, So, and there's this conditioning in her mind that, if she does this thing, then, she's going to be perceived as loose, or she's going to be perceived as a hoe or a freak or whatever, right? So you have to, working through those barriers, you have to consider, right, what she's dealing with, mentally, emotionally. And taking a woman out on a date, spending time with her, it's kind of like you're loosening those barriers up a little bit, right? That is your way of communicating to her, because it's all about language. It's all about language. And the matter is, do we speak the same language? Everybody has a different language that allows them to feel a little bit more comfortable around another person, right? And of course, most men aren't just going to come right out and say, oh, I want some pussy. And if they do, it may seem kind of like it's inappropriate, right? But there's different ways to communicate, for a man to communicate that he wants sex from a woman. There's many different ways. And there's many different ways to aid in that process of kind of working through those barriers that a woman has already, put up. That society, the context in which she's living in, has shaped her mind and has built up these barriers that you have to kind of work through. It is what it is, unless you're dealing with, a very open, sexually open woman who really doesn't care. But how many women out there? How many women are there out there like that, who truly rest in their femininity and their sexuality and don't really care about what other people think? Now, you have women that put up a good front, on Facebook or Instagram, and it's just like, yeah, they flaunt themselves, they present themselves as being comfortable in their sexuality based on how they dress, right? But when it comes to their interaction with men, they're kind of still closed off, right? They're still guarded. And I'm not saying that it's necessarily wrong for a woman to be guarded, but I'm just saying it is what it is, right? So for a man, it's not really that easy for him when he's dealing with that kind of woman, right, who is guarded, right? Because like I said, there's not that many women out there who are just going to be like kind of reading a man and saying that, okay, he wants sex, and I'm like, all right, I want sex too, and they somehow make an arrangement to make it happen. I don't think it is that easy. I don't think it's that easy. So it's important that men know a woman's language, love language. And there was this marriage therapist, marriage counselor named Gary Chapman, who wrote a book way back when, 1992, called The 5 Love Languages. You guys probably already know about this anyway. But he says there are 5 love languages. And I think there are plenty more. Plenty more. But he says those 5 love languages are time, quality time, touch, physical touch basically, acts of service, gifts, and words of affirmation. So we have time, touch, service, gifts, and words of affirmation. Those 5 love languages. He says that basically, if you can speak a person's love language, you can better connect with them. And that's what it's all about. like I said, sex is just an energy exchange. It's a connection that you make with someone. And a lot of times people just don't be speaking the right language. If a man can speak a woman's language, and like I said, we all have different languages. Those are just 5 according to Gary Chapman. For me, of those 5, if I had to put myself in one of those 5, I would say mine is quality time. But even beyond that, it's not really quality. That's not really my love language. That's partially like spending quality time, but that is not really going to speak to me just because, it's not so much. Because basically, let me put it this way. Basically, those 5 love languages are gifts, right? I mean, I know gifts is one of the 5 love languages, but it's something that you can give someone. You can give someone your time. You give someone touch. You give someone service, an act of service, right? Like rubbing their feet or cleaning their house or something like that, or gifts. You can give someone gifts. You can give someone words of affirmation. Those 5 love languages are all things that you can give someone. So for me, I think I'm just a different kind of person, because my love language isn't so much something that a man can give me as opposed to how he relates to me, right? How he interacts with me. And you guys should already know this. If you guys really follow me, you guys would already know that I like dominant men. So it don't matter if a man buys me things, gives me gifts, gives me acts of service, touches me. I don't even think y'all really want, especially if you're talking about a stranger anyway. Don't touch me. You have to work your way up to that point, right? Work your way up to that. I mean, I do love massages now. What woman doesn't love massages? But I don't think it doesn't matter even if a man can give me all 5 of those. I think it's just how he interacts with me. Do you also feel free to ask for sex when you want it done? Great question. Well, let me get to that in a minute. Put a pin in that. So for me, it's about how a man interacts with me, how he relates to me. I just like a dominant man. It's how he does it. It's not so much what he gives as to how he gives his time, how he spends his time with me, how he interacts with me. And I just like a man who approaches me and is confident. He's not only dominant in himself, but he's dominant in his role in society. That's what attracts me to a man, right? That's what kind of like softens my guard up a little bit. That's what I noticed this about my own self. It's good to know thyself. But as far as your question, do I feel free to ask for sex when I want it done? And I'm going to say I can ask for sex, but I feel like I shouldn't have to ask for sex. I think women ask for sex in different ways. So it's a matter of a man understanding her body language, what she's communicating, and that ties into the topic of this video, how to ask for sex. And to be honest with you, the irony to this video is that I don't necessarily think it's a matter of asking for sex. I mean, and I know a lot of women out there, especially the feminists, and the whole Me Too movement, you gotta be very particular about how you move and go about doing things, right? Because our society has completely evolved into something that, to me, is kind of foreign. But I think once a woman and a man has already established this relationship, this trust, this understanding with each other, it's like you ask in different ways. You don't ask necessarily with verbal language like, oh, can we have sex? Can I get the draws? Can I stick my penis? To me, that is corny. That is just corny, because it's like, what husband, right? What man who has already courted a woman, has already established this connection with a woman, actually asks a woman, can we have sex? I mean, who does that? You don't even see that in the movies. It's just something that kind of happens, right? Because the asking takes place on a different level beyond verbal communication. People communicate non-verbally. They say that much of communication is non-verbal. It's not even something that comes out of your mouth, but it's much more what you don't say with your mouth that says everything, right? And it's a matter of knowing how to read body language and how to respond appropriately too, because some men don't know how to read social cues or body language, and they make inappropriate moves that they should not make because they misinterpret those body cues that a woman is giving off. And it's clearly that she's saying, her body is saying no, right? But somehow he feels he feels like he's gonna take a chance, right? Totally wrong, right? Like, for example, if a woman has her arms crossed, now you can say, oh, maybe she's crossing her arms because she's cold, but this is different, right, than this. This is showing disinterest. This is showing, no, it's not the right time, right? But if a woman is more open, she's open, you know, like everything about her body is inviting you in. It's just a matter of you being able to read that appropriately, right? Men who are experienced know what I'm talking about. Men who have much experience with women definitely know what I'm talking about. But some men don't necessarily, you know, so they have to ask these questions because they just don't know. But it's a matter of just getting out there and getting experience. And sometimes I understand men who are heterosexual, but you just don't have that much experience with women. You know, there are men out there who are still virgins. They have no idea how to interact with a woman. I find that to be quite mind-blowing. But back to your question as far as me asking a man for sex, like I said, I feel like I don't have to ask a man for sex, but women do ask. And when I think back to my last serious relationship, because I mean, for me, I look at sex as something sacred. So it's something that I engage in with someone that I have deep feelings for, I care about. You know, every woman is different, right? So I don't want you to misconstrue my words or take things out of context, because, you know, I'm all for sexual freedom and you just being comfortable in your sexuality and doing what you feel, you know, mature adults can do. You know, but for me, I limit sex to something that I like to have with someone who I see a potential with, right? Who I have a spiritual connection with. You know, we have like this sacred energy about each other that I can feel, he can feel, right? And it just makes it better when our bodies connect on that physical level. You know, it's just like the fireworks happens. It's the icing on the cake, right? Because we've already established that connection mentally, you know. Like, I'm an intellectual, so it's not enough for a man to just, oh, I'm going to buy her things, or I'm going to do this for her, or I'm going to give her a massage. I mean, like, I like massages and all that, but you have to be able to connect with me on a different level for me to even want to go there. So when I'm thinking back to my last serious relationship, yes, there were times where I wanted sex. And I don't even think sex was on his mind, right? But it was on my mind at the time, and I would make moves. Now, do I prefer to make moves? No. Right? I don't necessarily prefer to initiate sex. So, and historically speaking, I really never had to, you know, initiate sex, right? Like, I've been with men who are more assertive, but that's just my type of man that I'm interested in, right? Men who know how to assert themselves and go after what they want in a very kind of domineering way, right? And I'm just more of the receiver. That's just me. That's just how I like to do things, right? And that's my love language. That's just how I relate to men. Every woman is different. But for men who struggle with wanting sex and not knowing how to ask for it, like I said, I sympathize with you. Because I think conventionally men think that you're supposed to ask. And like I said, I don't want you guys to take things out of context, because of course you should do this with consent of a woman. And consent happens on many different levels. You don't have to have a freaking legal document, written consent, right? Or even verbal consent necessarily. Consent takes many different forms. That's what I'm trying to say. So it can be verbal, it can be written, or, you know, her body, her physical language will let you know. And if she pushes away, no means no, right? Because what if you're talking to a woman who's deaf, you know what I'm saying, who can't articulate with words, right? So she's gonna communicate in different ways, right? And I think overall, that's just how most humans communicate, right? There's much more communication, much more to be said on a subconscious level, more so than verbally, right? Through our body language, right? And just being able to understand what is her body saying, and knowing that a lot of women want the same thing that men want. We want the same thing. It's just a matter of how you approach it, how you interact with the woman. You have to know. And some women may not tell you, like I just told you guys. I mean, I make videos about it all the time about me being a submissive. So truly dominant men know how to interact with submissives. It's a no-brainer for them. But some men just, they don't. They just sit back and they expect the woman to kind of take the lead, and then nothing happens because the submissive is waiting on the man to initiate. And the man is just like, all right, well, we live in a equal society, a gender equal society where women have just as many rights as men, and, you know, Me Too and all that. So I don't want to encroach on her territory, and I'm just going to sit here and just kind of let things happen. We'll see what happens, you know. And honestly, I'm not that kind of woman. I don't like that kind of man who's like, oh, so let's see what happens. That, to me, is a turnoff. And I've seen that pretty frequently on dating sites where men just be like, they'll even say that in their tagline, oh, we'll see what happens. And I'm just like, well, guess what? Ain't shit gonna happen. You're waiting around to see what happens. Ain't nothing gonna happen. Corker says, you gotta be smooth, fellas. Haha, smooth. See, you old school. You gotta be old school with it. Old school men know. It's so simple. I think sometimes people, we complicate things that aren't really made to be complicated. Just not. Moral of the story, don't go around asking women for sex. Don't ask. Just go for the gusto. No. Because some of y'all take it the wrong way. But I mean, you know, start yourself, right? And allow the body language to do the talking, you know. Her body is going to let you know if she's ready. And some men have it so down pat, like they can smell when a woman is like they say that we're animalistic, right? That we're animals at heart, right? Like naturally we're animals, right? And I kind of believe that there's, you know, a certain kind of degree of truth to that, right? And, you know, you think about, like, dogs and, like, other creatures in the animal kingdom. Like, dogs can sniff. They know, like, when a girl dog is in heat. They just know. You can smell it. Like, you can, you know? And sometimes, I'm not trying to say men are dogs, but if you can tap into your animalistic nature, like, you can know when a woman is ovulating, because that's when she's the horniest, to be honest. This is what I was talking about earlier in my video. And another video I was telling you guys that I made about how to control your sexual urges. But in that video I talked about basically how to know, like, there's a time in a woman's menstrual cycle when she is the horniest. You know, like, people, we just don't, I mean, you have to understand human behavior. Human behavior just doesn't happen just out of nowhere, right? There is a cause for everything that humans do. All behavior is rooted in something. It's usually biology. You seem not too complicated. Thank you, Sammy, but if you talk to certain men that I've interacted with, they would definitely disagree with you, right? So maybe the way I communicate and my delivery and this information on this video seems very straightforward and simple, and I want to make it that way. But in terms of in practice, I don't know. I'll try to simplify it for you guys, because I don't want to make it to seem that it's so hard. Something that seems to be, in theory or in practice, seems to be difficult, right, for men to embark upon as they relate to women, right? I want to simplify it, I guess, in this video. So thanks for saying that it doesn't seem that complicated, but I think in practice it can be kind of complicated. But if you get it, you get it. It's very simple. If you get it, you get it. You don't, right? So going back to the whole, thing about women having a certain period in their menstrual cycle when their hormones start to kick in and they're ovulating, and it serves a purpose, it serves a function, a reproductive function, that during let me give you guys a hint. I already talked about this in my previous video, but I'll reiterate that a woman has a cycle. That cycle is usually like 28 days. So like every 28 days she bleeds, right? She bleeds. And if you count 14 days, it's usually 14 to 18. It can vary, right? And there are ovulation tests, just like there are pregnancy tests that women can take to detect the hormone. I believe it's called HCG hormone, that basically is an indicator for if a woman is ovulating, right? It's a fertility kind of test, right? To see when is a woman ovulating in her cycle. So if you count 14 to 18 days from the first day of her period, like for example, if her period came on July 1st, which was, when was July 1st? That was 2 days ago, right? We're July 3rd. So if her period came on July 1st, you would count 14 days from July 1st, and that would be what, July 15th, around there. July 15th to July 18th. During that time, that's when she will be ovulating, which means that's when she is producing her egg. She's releasing her egg from her follicle, right? From her, fallopian tubes, and it, go down and, rest in her uterus and wait to be fertilized. But, the body is, you have to know the woman's body, man. Some men know a woman's body better than she knows her own body. Like, you got some men that will tell a woman when her cycle is, and shit. She'll be like, damn, how do you know my cycle better than I do? But some men, they got that shit down pat. They know a woman. And that goes into a dominant man. Dominant men just know everything, damn near. They just like God. They just like, they know more. They more about the woman than she knows about herself. So, yeah. And from a biological perspective, it's just like you can't fight nature. Nature is nature. That's hormones. That's just like your genetic, your DNA. You can't go against DNA. So that's just like if you were genetically predisposed to, let's say, diabetes or, high blood pressure. It's like you can fight it based on like what you eat and things, exercise and stuff. You try to fight it, but DNA is pretty strong. Your DNA genetic code is pretty strong. So those hormones that a woman has, that her body releases, women know, like, you horny. You wrestle with it, and you're like, damn, take a cold shower, or, masturbate, or go have sex. Don't know this might be, why is your eye so sexy? What? You said it's weird? Thank you for that compliment. I got my mom's eyes, but so knowing like when a woman is ovulating, ding 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 ding, but that doesn't mean that you just have the ticket just to go have sex with it, right? But it's just like it'll help. These things kind of help, but it's like I said, some men can sniff it out. It's like they can smell it. It's like something happening on a metaphysical level, a level beyond the physical, where they can sense it. They like perceive like when a woman is ovulating when she's ready. You know, it's just like, damn, how you know? It's like you know, communicating without even using words. It's like, damn, because they strike at the right time, and it's just a matter of timing. You know, and you know, if it's the right time, and man is horny, which they say men are always horny. Woman is horny. Voila, voila. It's simple, it makes it easy, right? It's like you don't even really have to ask. You want it, but you don't even have to ask. Like I said, I feel sorry for men who want sex but don't know how to ask for it. Because you don't know how to look for it. You don't know how to read that body language. You gotta know, man. You gotta know these things. Study. They don't teach these things hardly in school. I mean, you learn about this in like biology. You learn about the reproductive system. Sometimes like, it depends on the teacher, I guess, like you have in grade school. Sometimes they kind of like brush over it because some people feel very uncomfortable talking about sex, right? It's stigmatized, you know. It's just like, oh, don't go there. And super religious folks, you know, it's just like they shun it, right? But for me, I'll be the teacher. Like we'll be having all kinds of fun with it, right? You know, within a certain limit, of course, because you know we're dealing with kids. But I think it's just important to educate people, especially even kids, about healthy aspects of sex. Because in school, what do we get? The negative. It's all about, oh, you're gonna get an STD. Oh, you're gonna get pregnant. It's like a lot of fear mongering going on, right? And that's the foundation for how we perceive and how we develop these social attitudes with respect to sex. It's very unhealthy, you know. And I guess it's with reason, right? Because it makes people like, oh, you don't have sex, right? But I think it kind of creates this mystery too, because if it's something that, oh, you're not supposed to do and it's nasty or you're gonna get pregnant and STD, like sometimes when you tell a person you can't do something, it makes it more interesting, it makes it more attractive and more desirable. You're like, oh, well, I want to do it anyway. You tell a kid, don't touch that candy, and you leave that child there. I mean, they have this social experiment going on social media, right? There's social experiment going on social media where parents have placed their toddlers and they put them to the test, right, in front of a bowl of candy or fruit, and they say, all right, I'm gonna leave this here with you, don't touch it, you can't touch it until I come back. And then what happens? You know, the kid like wrestles with how can they manage those impulses, can control those impulses. Almost as like the parent telling the child that they can't have something increases their impulsivity, right? Increases their feeling, their urge to want to have that thing which the parent told them not to have. And so now it's like they're fighting those impulses. The impulse probably wasn't even there, right? If, you know, the parent probably just didn't even say don't touch it and just leave it there, right? Maybe the impulse could be there, but not as strong as telling a person don't do something. It makes it even more desirable, right? So that's an interesting experiment, but it's the same thing with sex. It's just like telling a person, oh, a kid, you can't do something, it makes them want to do it even more. Same thing with smoking, cigarettes. You can't do this until you're 18, and then what do kids go do? They go smoke. It's a whole nother topic, but it's kind of related, you know. So I just think that there should be more healthy conversation around these topics. And I appreciate everyone for sharing their perspective. Feel free to ask questions, comment, share this video, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.